Oh, welcome back to the Two Marks and Spark wrestling show slash podcast, whatever you want to call us here on Lock 22. I am Ben Shrewsbury, and here with me, as always, the wonderful, and I'm saying his name maybe to remind you as well as maybe him after everything we've witnessed this week. Uncle Russ is here.
Good evening or morning, wherever you are.
Or whatever the hell it is by the time this show manages to get up. So,
What a show.
that went really quick.
Yes, it
It
did.
was a boom.
Very well paced. AEW Revolution was a hit.
I do want to note that we are taping this before the press conference. So if anything happens at the press conference, we'll cover it next week. This was a show. It happened.
Yes.
We are not going to talk about. I do want to talk a little bit. We don't have a lot of extra time. We have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of extra time. I do want to talk a little bit about Ring of Honor. They made their comeback this week. I was told the show was going to be an hour. It was 2. I don't know if that was just for this week or if that was for Objective Permanence.
I was only able to see the first hour.
I thought the show was very good. I do think that it is starting to feel like they're headed towards a brand split between AEW and ROH, and I'm all right with that. If that's where they're going, that's kind of what it feels like. That's what it felt like on Tuesday or Thursday or whatever day that show was on.
Some
that
of the
feels like a
people
year
we've
ago.
seen on AEW showed up there, like Willow Nightingale.
It seems like Willow's going to be ROH permanent now. Athena as well. I mean, a lot of these people that are on ROH now were signed for ROH initially, and ROH TV just kept getting delayed.
Right.
So
And it's good to see Mark Briscoe.
Great to see Mark Briscoe, and we saw him again on the pre-show tonight. One thing I do want to point out, they did a wonderful job of promoting Ring of Honor on Dynamite. They made sure to plug it on Dynamite, and they were also plugging Revolution fairly heavily on Ring of Honor. But they were more so even plugging Supercard of Honor on March 31st, WrestleMania weekend in LA. It seems like we're going to be getting Claudio and Eddie Kingston that weekend.
Nice.
Seems like Ring of Honor is loading up for Supercard of Honor. So,
well, I'm hoping that Eddie Kingston can be a little bit more prominent in Ring of Honor because I've missed him lately on AEW.
I don't know if he wanted to do Ring of Honor or if they wanted to move him to Ring of Honor or what. But either way, I think it's the right call. I mean, it kind of seems like the plan for him was always to go to Ring of Honor since they bought it. Like, that's always kind of felt like that was the plan one way or another. So
seems to be a good fit to me.
I mean, that's where we were headed. And he's probably going to beat Claudio, I would have to think. They're probably going to put the belt on him. And it seems like it's going to be Willow versus Athena for the ROH women's title. I think Sky Blue is probably going to be the one who ends up beating Athena for that belt, but they got to build her up, and they did that this week. They had her in a tag match with Madison Rayne that I actually thought was all right for what it was.
Right.
We're not going to go through that show shot for shot because we don't have the time.
Right.
We are going to go through.
I'm sorry. It did finally occur to me where I'd seen Willow before, and that was a couple of years ago on WOW. She was called Eye Candy, something like that. Really stupid name. I like her much better as Willow Nightingale.
Didn't everybody have a really stupid name on that show, though?
Pretty much, except for Tessa Blanchard. They pretty much all had stupid gimmicks and names.
So this show started on the pre-show with the Lucha Brothers and Mark Briscoe.
Yeah, I was not able to see the pre-show, so please fill me in.
This was every pre-show match you've ever seen with like a modicum more talent, because obviously the Lucha Bros and Mark Briscoe are fantastic.
Yes,
Um,
I agree.
I don't know that the Lucha Bros are going to be ROH talent, but it kind of felt like it with everybody else in this match being Ring of Honor. The varsity athletes are all Ring of Honor. Briscoe's Ring of Honor. So I don't know. Maybe the Lucha Bros are going to Ring of Honor. I don't know, but we'll see. This show starts with a match I did not care about coming in, but they made me care very quickly. Ricky Starks versus Chris Jericho. This was great.
It was good, and I was surprised at how good it was. I've come to not expect great things from Chris Jericho.
Man,
And
I'll
I'm
tell you,
glad
when
he
it's a
proved me
pay-per-view, this
wrong.
guy comes to play. This guy is so good. Jericho is still great. I know this Jericho Appreciation Society crap is getting old and quickly, and a lot of it has to do with Sammy Guevara. But Starks gets the win and he gets it clean in the middle of the ring. Guevara goes to come down to the ring. Action Andretti jumps him, and it looks like those two got in a straight up street fight right there. I won't be surprised if that's a match on Wednesday.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
And Starks gets the win clean in the middle of the ring.
Right. I didn't even mind the sing along so much this time. Although if I was ever in the crowd in the front row, I'd love to hold up a sign that says "This song sucks."
Then we get Triple H versus Shawn Michaels from SummerSlam 2002. Because
Wow, a casket match.
no, dude, the first 10 minutes of this match are pretty much a shot for shot recreation of Triple H versus Shawn Michaels. This was great. All of it. And Jungle Boy, for whatever doubts anybody had about him before this show, they're gone.
He's come a long way. I'll give the guy credit.
And he
So Jungle Boy was in small print, Jack Perry in large letters. He seems to be kind of growing out of the gimmick, coming into his own as
I don't think they should get rid of his song, though. I think that song is too iconic to him now.
Yeah.
I'd keep him with the music, even if you get rid of the Jungle Boy thing, keep the music. Because it's a good song. I mean, and it fits him. Christian is so good. Christian Cage. This guy's 48. You would not have known it watching this match.
Yes, he was very, very good.
I mean, he wrestled in a turtleneck. I don't know. If he's I swear Father Time does not affect him. He does not look a day older than 32, and he doesn't wrestle like it either. Christian Cage very well might have another world title run in him at this point.
He looks really amazing at this point.
If he was still a baby face and you told me that he was going to be the one to beat MJF for the title, I don't think I'd be calling you crazy, because I think that's realistic. Then we get another great match, perhaps the best Young Bucks match I've ever seen.
One was interesting. This was the first time that I really enjoyed the House of Black.
It's because they're booking.
I was very, very impressed with Brody King in this match. He really dominated a good part of the match. It was very impressive to me. He hasn't really caught my eye that much, but to me, Brody King really stood out.
And Malachi and Kenny were in the ring for a long time, and all of that was great. And Julia Hart took a V-trigger in this match, and she took it like a champ. And she
let her finally do something other than just stand around.
But the way she took that V-trigger, that was awesome. And House of Black won. They needed to win. Otherwise, that was probably the end of them.
New trios champions.
And they made the right call. Honestly,
I know we don't a lot of times discuss the aesthetics of it, but Brody King's makeup, I mean, perfect corpse paint makeup. He reminded me so much of some of the black metal bands that I like Gorgoroth and Dark Throne. Really, really just nailed it perfectly.
Well, and Malachi's friends with a lot of those dark metal bands.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder how much inspiration they take from that. And Malachi is so good. And you saw it in
Yes.
this match. All three of those guys are just spectacular.
I
And
still
Ken,
haven't got used to Buddy Matthews. I'm still calling him Buddy Murphy all the time. And then they'll say Buddy Matthews, and I'm like, who the hell are they talking about?
I don't know what their plan is for Malachi, but if it's not world champion, it should be. I mean, this guy just is incredible. Then we get a match
match.
where if the result had been any different, I'm fairly certain the Chase Center would have been burned to the ground. Jamie Hayter, Saraya, and Ruby Soho in a triple threat. This match was fine.
Crowd was hot.
Saraya looked the best she has looked since she came back.
Right?
That is not saying much because she has
seen
been
her wrestle in a long time.
Well, she has been bad since she has come back for the most part, and she was very good here. So, and finally, we get the heel turn of Ruby Soho. This has been coming for the better part of a year. Thank God they pulled the trigger and they did it.
Finally doing something with her. And, boy, the crowd, Jamie Hayter is so over with the AEW crowd. It's really amazing.
And I texted you, I said, if Jamie does not win this match, they are burning that building down.
Yeah,
they will burn that building down.
They would have rioted because, it's another example of how someone who started out as a heel had to become a babyface just because of the crowd reception of her. They just love her so much,
But the fact that AEW is listening to the crowd in that way is very intelligent. And I know we crap on Tony all the time, but that's one of the things he's done pretty well is listen to the crowd. He did it with MJF. He did it with Brian because he was going to make Brian a heel, and then the crowd got behind him, so they changed their mind. And they have one thing Tony has done very well is he has overall, with the exception of Hangman, booked his champions very well. And especially lately, Jamie Hayter, who, if you'd have told me a year ago Jamie Hayter is going to be the women's world champion, I don't think I'd have believed you. But she's so good. She's great. First of all, she's great in the ring. And she is the most over woman in the company. Like,
yes, by far. And Britt Baker taking a back seat to her. She seems to be handling her diminished role really well.
I don't think she cares that much.
I legitimately very happy. The interviews she's done recently, she seems to be very happy to be a part of the company in any capacity.
Well, here's the thing.
Seems to be a team player, very much so.
Here's the thing. Adam Cole's there.
Right.
Her boyfriend, fiance, boyfriend, whatever he is, he's there.
We should see wrestle fairly soon, I think.
March 29th. And then, she's got, a guaranteed job for life at this point. They're never going to get rid of her. So, and she's still a full-time dentist on the side. So, she doesn't need to be the top woman in the company. And to some level, I don't think she ever wanted to be. I don't think she ever wanted to be the top heel. But, that's how it worked out.
Yeah.
And then they turned her babyface, and I think she's a better babyface than she was a heel.
I think so too.
And, Jamie needs the title because, again, if they'd have taken it off her tonight, the building would have burned to the ground. But, you could have put the belt, they could put the belt on Ruby at Double or Nothing. You know what I mean? If they want to switch the title.
Right.
Which I don't think Tony does. He shouldn't if he does. But Jamie Hayter is kind of their Becky Lynch. That's what I compare her to. She's kind of their Becky Lynch, who just kind of came out of nowhere, caught fire, and is probably going to have that belt for a long, long time. And then we get the Texas death match. This was fine. I don't like death matches. This is one of the better ones I've ever seen. The right person won here just because a loss here does not hurt Moxley. But a loss would have hurt Hangman.
I mean, we had everything. We had barbed wire. We had bricks. We had chains. We had chairs. We had chairs wrapped in barbed wire. We had tables. We had
one part of
blood.
One thing I really enjoyed when Moxley did the curb stomp with the bricks, which was clearly an ode to Seth, right? They started singing Seth's music in the building, and I was like, "Oh, that's great!" And I just so happened to be wearing a Seth Rollins t-shirt, so I was just like, "Oh, that's great."
Well, and I think it's amazing too. Every time I see them wrapping their own fist in barbed wire, wrapping their torso in barbed wire, I think this is the part of death matches that makes me say, "This is stupid. This is stupid." If you and I were in a real life fight and we had barbed wire as a weapon, that fight would be over very fast.
But again, I'm not a death match guy, so I don't feel like I'm necessarily qualified to talk about this. But this was a good match for what it was. I mean, it's AEW kind of gives you a little bit of everything.
Right.
And it's okay to admit when something isn't for you, but enjoy the show overall. And that's kind of what this was.
This kind of reminds you of the stuff I used to see in CZW, although not as a little bit more professional and not quite as chaotic.
And I thought this was by far Hangman's best match since 2021 against Kenny. In terms of pay-per-view matches, I think this was his best one since Full Gear 2021, and I was there for that. So,
but that was a good show.
Incredible. I mean, this company live is just a totally different animal. And then we get Wardlow versus Samoa Joe. This was a very good match, but it's Wardlow and Samoa Joe. I don't think they were going to have a bad match. And Wardlow needed a win here because Samoa Joe's going to Ring of Honor. We know that. Samoa Joe is Ring of Honor. They said that.
Now we know that this Wednesday we'll be getting a TNT Championship match. It'll be Wardlow versus Powerhouse Hobbs.
Hobbs winning the face of the Revolution.
Hobbs gets a little more of a push. I like him a lot. I think he has great potential that hasn't been realized yet.
That's a guy I could see them sending to Ring of Honor. If they need a top heel in Ring of Honor and it's not going to be Eddie Kingston, it should be Powerhouse Hobbs. But I don't know what you do with that TNT title if you're going to have Wardlow lose it in 3 days.
Yeah.
And I don't think they should, honestly. I mean, I'm all for Hobbs winning the title, but I don't know that I don't know that you beat Wardlow that quick. Unless Wardlow's leaving the company, which I don't think he is. So, and then we get the black mark on this otherwise excellent show, this 4-way tag title match that was just a clusterfuck. This match sucks.
This was the weakest part of the show. See, we had the Guns, Austin and Colton. We had Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal with their two buddies in turbans. Sanjay Dutt and what's his name? Singh?
Satnam Singh.
Satnam Singh. Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. Another comedy.
Like the highlight of this fucking match somehow.
Yeah.
The Acclaimed weren't even good tonight.
Well, the Acclaimed, since they lost the belt, I mean, the match they had last week too. Their last couple of matches since they lost the title have been kind of lackluster compared to what we've seen in the past.
They just,
but anyway, the Guns retained the titles. I don't think anybody's happy with that.
Well, no, but can I just say something here?
Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett is in incredible shape. This man is like 55.
Yeah, he's in good shape.
Now, does that mean I want to see him wrestle? No. but I will give him props for doing it anyway. The highlight of this match was the Jeff Jarrett Danhausen encounter. That was the best part of the match. It could have ended right there, and I would have been fine. Hell, put the tag titles on Orange Cassidy and Danhausen, and I think the place erupts.
Yeah, I would like it, but the
well, it would have been better than the freaking Guns winning the belts.
I would see. That's the thing. I was hoping I would be happy with anybody except the Guns winning it, even Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. I as a fan, I don't see that the Guns have earned their spot yet. I don't think they're the push they're getting. But that doesn't mean they're bad by any means. It just means that I don't think they're good enough to be carrying those belts.
Cassidy and Danhausen were like thrown together, but Cassidy's been there since day one, and Danhausen's fucking great. So at least the crowd gives a shit about them. At least the crowd cares about those two guys.
Yes, they do.
Like, the crowd doesn't give a shit about the Guns. That's the only reason I say you could have
put Danhausen and Orange Cassidy too much comedy for my tastes.
But at least the crowd cares about them. The crowd doesn't care about the Guns.
Orange Cassidy has great entrance music. Tony Khan's able to pay the big money to get the royalties for the original recordings. You know, I was a huge fan of Jefferson Airplane. Didn't like Jefferson Starship, but that's one of their better songs. And I love the use of classic rock. You know,
but it's like I say, even if Orange Cassidy and Danhausen aren't your flavor, and that's okay. And like I said, AEW is kind of a little bit of everything. You get some comedy, you get some goofy shit, you get some serious, you get a little bit of everything, and there was definitely kind of a wrestling buffet on this show.
Very much so.
If you didn't like everything on this show, you liked something.
Yes. And everything was tolerable except for this match, to me personally.
And the Guns win, and Renee Paquette goes down there, and Renee Paquette is great, and she just looks disgusted. Yes. She looks at these two guys like, you jackasses.
But then something really good and unexpected happened.
The Guns are cutting the worst promo you've ever heard. I don't even remember what they said. I didn't write it down. I don't care.
Right. It was not memorable, and it was not coherent.
Coherent is not how I would describe anything the Guns do. What was coherent, however, is what happened next. FTR's music hit, and the place exploded. Yes. FTR go down there, beat the shit out of them in like the most violent fashion possible. Dax gets cut open somewhere. I don't know where.
Yeah, I didn't see how he got busted open, but he must have got busted open hard way for real, because
you know what it might have been? Sometimes when they wrestle these matches and like a fingernail breaks, even if it's a short nail.
For sure.
If a short nail breaks, it can be kind of jagged and maybe it cut him. That's the only thing I can think of.
I'm glad to see him back, though. I did not expect to see them, and I hope we get to see some more of them. I think FTR is the best tag team they have.
I think this means they've re-signed.
I sure hope it does. Because I doubt if they would have brought him back like this if they had not re-signed.
Even if it's just for a year or 6 months or what, because their contracts are up like next month. So yeah. I don't think you bring them back on this level if they have not re-signed. So
I hope we get to see a good title reign. There's been some, I know Dax does a lot of interviews, a lot of podcasts. You know, he's kind of hinted that they're kind of winding down their career because they've been at it for quite a while. They've been wrestling longer than they've been really well known and prominent, you know, with the big companies. But a nice title reign would be a good way to wrap up a really great legacy for them.
Speaking of wrapping up, and I want to give a shout out to Sala Monster, who does really good wrestling content, not only as a podcast but here on YouTube. he made the point that this is Sting's last year in wrestling. Sting has said that. That happened before the show came back, but I wouldn't mind seeing Sting get the TNT title if this is it for him, or Sting and Darby get the tag titles. Like, if this is
that'd be good.
If this is it for Sting, like, let him go out how he deserves. Let him
Sting
go
and
out
Darby were nowhere on this card at all. We're not seen. We're not mentioned.
Which confused the shit out of me.
They have not been mentioned for several weeks on television that I can remember.
I wonder if Darby's hurt.
That would not shock me, because that guy does crazy shit that he's got to be hurting himself more than getting hurt by his opponents.
And then the main event.
Wow.
They did not mess around getting to this, by the way.
Yeah. By the way, you notice how we talked before about how the pacing of their shows is so much better than WWE. It's almost nonstop wrestling, nonstop action. Very, very little in the way of video packages, interviews, promos, very, very short. The emphasis is on wrestling. Anybody that really, really loves the WWE style with the long, drawn out vignettes and storylines might have a little bit of trouble with that. But for an old school wrestling fan, it's really, really excellent. It's great. It reminds me of the old style booking from the territory days.
AEW is very much booked like a territory.
I think Tony Khan is getting a little better at that, and they don't have as good of production values as WWE. I think some of their camera work is a little wonky. The lighting's great. They don't have the lighting problems like Ring of Honor used to have, but
Impact.
As far as pacing and wrestling content, I think they're outdoing the WWE, and I think the WWE could learn something from them.
Well, they have better wrestlers. I think that's part of it. I mean, on the same roster, mind you, they have Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, and MJF on the same roster. Oh, and they have Samoa Joe.
Yes, they do.
They have Christian. And they have, like, every young up-and-coming star you could want. Like, WWE...
They've got more of them than we regularly see on TV, if people want to see more, they should check out their YouTube shows.
Or Ring of Honor.
A lot of people that are kind of like on the under roster, that more like on the YouTube shows. A lot of people that we never see on television.
There's a lot of talent in this company and a lot of really talented people. For as much as we say, oh, Tony's bloated the roster, yeah, he has, but I think he's kind of done it on purpose. Because here's why I think he's done it. Because I think on this next TV deal, he wants Rampage in a primetime slot, and he wants to make Rampage a 2-hour show in primetime. And I think he wants to do 2-hour shows a week and then have Ring of Honor on the side. I think that's what he wants. And, will he get that? I don't know. But that kind of feels like that's what he wants. And I know, again, we shit on Tony all the time. But this guy works hard. I mean, clearly, he's got the Jaguars, his sports analytics business that he runs, 2 wrestling companies, really 2.5, because he's got, like, a massive roster for both of them. And, like, this guy's at every show. He's there.
Mm-hmm.
AEW is not corporate. Say what you want about AEW, but they are not corporate, and that is to their favor at this point.
Yeah, this feels much more like an indie show in the variety of what you get.
It's not an insult to call it. It feels a little bit like an indie show on the big time, because that's kind of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, this main event really, really delivered. This was incredible.
I think this was the best match in AEW history so far. Bryan Danielson versus MJF for the AEW World Title, and you could tell it was going to be special from the second Danielson walked out there. Danielson walks out, the crowd pops, and they knew they were in for one. And what ensued is the single greatest Iron Man match I have ever seen in my life. This is better than John Cena and Randy Orton in 2009. Better than Brett and Shawn.
This was as good as Brett and Austin.
I think so. I think it's close. I think these two went out there and said, oh, you don't believe in AEW? Fucking watch this. We're going to make you believe by the end of
What'd
this
you think of MJF's artsy entrance with the little string orchestra?
I thought it was perfect. I thought
it was great.
Because here's the thing. On these big pay-per-views, they only do 4 of these a year. Maybe 5 if you count Forbidden Door, but that's a cross with New Japan, so that's not really a full AEW production. You know what I mean? Forbidden Door is a double promotion. So that's not really just AEW. That's AEW and New Japan together. They do 4 AEW, straight AEW pay-per-views a year. And yeah, they're $50, but they only do 4 of them, right?
And I think having 4, I think WWE still does too many.
They're cutting down on them in WWE. Like, we didn't have TLC last year.
Right.
And I would venture to say 15, we probably
16 every year at their peak, and that was way too many.
And I think Starrcade's probably going to be the December pay-per-view now, because Triple H is in charge and he's a mark for old WCW.
Yeah.
And this kind of felt like old style WCW, this main event.
It very much did. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I like the old WCW.
This felt like Steamboat and Flair. And MJF and Danielson go out there. They have like I said, one of the best Iron Man matches you've ever seen. We didn't get a fall for almost 30 minutes. And
things started happening fast at that point.
Well, Danielson gets the first fall at, what was it, about the 26-minute mark, 25-minute mark?
26 minutes in.
And then very quickly, MJF
that was by pinfall.
Very quickly.
Then MJF gets disqualified for a low blow.
But he gets 2 pins out of that, so we're tied at 2.
Exactly. So then we're tied, and he got him in quick succession.
But that was really smart. He took advantage of the rules.
That was like being a very smart heel. He got disqualified and then got 2 pinfalls out of it.
He looked at the score and said, fuck it. Boom. I'm going to get at least 1.
Yes, and he got 2. I thought that was brilliant.
And they said it on commentary. He knew for sure he was going to get 1 out of that, and he got a 2 for 1.
That was good heel strategy.
And then we go about 15 minutes without another fall. And then MJF puts Danielson through a damn table twice.
Right, which was something that we're not used to see him do. As they said the commentary, outside of his wheelhouse.
And here's the thing. There's a lot that happened in this match. We're not going to go blow for blow on this, and we're going to jump around a lot. But, like, there was a point in this match where they were rolling around just small packaging each other. Like, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Remsburg looked like he was going to have a frickin' coronary. And Remsburg was great. This was the best Remsburg match ever. And How do you feel about MJF as a world champion? I think he's been great so far.
I do too.
But they did something very interesting here. So it's 3-2 MJF. They go into about the last 10, 11. I think it was what, the 12 minutes left when Danielson tied it up.
Yes,
So
then that's when they were tied up. That's when a very, very bloody MJF tapped out, and they're tied up 3-3. And there was approximately about 10 11 minutes left.
And they go the distance, tied at 3. MJF taps after the final bell goes off at 60.
Right after the bell.
And Justin Roberts says, ladies and gentlemen, 60 minutes have elapsed. We are tied at 3. This match is a draw. MJF is still the AEW World Champion. And the crowd goes ballistic.
Yeah.
They get pissed.
The crowd was chanting bullshit.
And I don't know about you, but I looked at my phone and I saw what time it was, and I was like, there's no fucking way that's the finish.
Yeah, at that point I expected what did happen to happen.
I didn't know if it was going to be that or if it was going to be some sort of other type of swerve, but I knew we were getting swerved. And fucking Shivani's getting something in his headset, and it looked like that was legit. It didn't look like Shivani knew that was going to happen. Shivani walks down there, says something to Justin Roberts to the equivalent of restart this fucking thing. Tells Remsburg to restart the damn thing. Remsburg gets back in the ring. He says something to the doc like we.
Oh, that's right. Forgot to be, at that point, MJF had been getting oxygen.
And Danielson's getting looked at.
Yep. The doctors were in the ring and looked very, very real.
And everybody's just in a heap. And Justin Roberts says,
legitimately exhausted and beat up.
Justin Roberts says, ladies and gentlemen, by the order of Tony Khan, this match is now set for one fall, and it is for the AEW World Title. And we restarted 3-3. And we restarted 3-3 with no time limit. And they go about another 15 minutes.
They went a little bit longer than I expected them to.
And they went about an hour and 10, hour 15 total. Granted, they had what, a 3-4 minute break there after the with the angle.
Right, after the hour was up.
And, you know, they're getting looked at. And I guarantee you what was happening was Doc Samson and the docs down there that have the headphones on were probably talking to the wrestlers saying, okay, we got 90 seconds, 2 minutes, whatever. Telling them, hey, you know, ebb and flow. Now Danielson's probably just sitting there calm, cool, and collected, like, I'm just going to lay here for a minute, guys. It's fine. Knowing Bryan Danielson, he was just like, I'm fine. I don't give a shit. And then the next 15 minutes are the best 15 minutes of wrestling you will ever see. They work basically a whole nother match.
It was great. And what good storytelling. You know, MJF's looks of desperation. And Bryan Danielson just laughing, you know, his arrogance, just laughing at MJF. Like,
MJF is basically crying at one point.
He was crying. He was upset. He brings the belt in to cheat. The referee says, you hit him with that belt, he's going to win and get the title. Go ahead, be my guest.
Like I said, Remsburg was great.
He was great. And MJF is so pissed that he throws it down, you know. He can't even be a good heel in this situation.
And MJF ends up winning with the LaBelle lock, which I thought was so perfect. And
I kind of thought that maybe it was going to go the other way.
I always knew it was going to be MJF. Because here's the thing, dude. They very easily could have put the belt on Danielson here if they wanted to. And I'm sure they thought about it.
I could at any time. Maybe at this point in his career, maybe he doesn't want to be the champion.
I don't know, but it feels like to me that Adam Cole is coming back at the perfect time. It feels like to me the main event of All Out this year is going to be MJF and Adam Cole. And that's where Adam Cole is going to win the title.
You picked up some news. You mentioned to me that you picked up some news.
I had heard a rumor
about Danielson's wife and sister-in-law.
Yeah, well, Bree's been backstage before. I mean, that's not really news. I mean, she's been there before. Pretty much every time he's been in the main event. I mean, they're not going to put her in the crowd. That'd be high grade stupidity. But like, him and Nikki are close though, so I guess it's not that unreasonable that she would be back there. It was a rumor. I didn't confirm that, but I had heard a rumbling that Nikki and Bree were there.
Yeah.
Could that be
I haven't heard anything about them wanting to wrestle at this point, you know.
I think Nikki and Bree do want to wrestle. I think Bree wants to wrestle more than Nikki does. But Bree was always the better worker anyway. So, you know, if Bree wants to come back, I mean, they just had a falling out with WWE. So I'm wondering, you know, is at least Bree thinking about a run in AEW? You know, and she'd get over because she's a Danielson, and they could call her Bree Danielson. I mean, they could.
They have a couple of children too, I think.
Yeah. And I was half expecting her to get involved in that last promo they did on Wednesday night. And it would have made sense. This would have been the one feud where getting her involved would have made a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
Because her name got mentioned, what, twice?
Yes, so, you're right. I forgot about that. Well, I'll tell you, like I said, I thought that the four-way tag team match kind of drug the show down. Everything else was good.
This was an A.
The main event just made the whole show worthwhile. It was superb. One of the best main events I've ever seen. One of the best in years.
An all-time great match.
Well, it's already we're only into March, and I would say we got a match of the year candidate already.
But here's the thing. This would have been an all-time show probably without it. Right? If you take the tag match out of there.
Pretty good show overall, yes.
But then you tack a all-time classic onto the end, and it's like, show me a pay-per-view in the last year that was better than this. I don't think you have one. I mean, Forbidden Door, and even then, I don't even consider that an AEW pay-per-view. Because like I said, that's two promotions. That's not just one, that's two. And yes, it counts as a pay-per-view, but it's not an AEW, strictly an AEW pay-per-view. It's an AEW and New Japan. And there's nothing wrong with that, but let's not say it was all AEW, because it wasn't.
Right.
Now, I do, because we have quite a bit of time, we got through the show a little bit quicker than I thought we would. I do want to talk about some rumor stuff, and I want to get your opinion on some predictions going forward here, specifically on the AEW side of things as to where we're headed. I think the logical double or nothing match for MJF is probably it's almost got to be Claudio, doesn't it? Like at this point. And I know he's the ROH World Champion, but if he loses to Eddie, I mean,
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of that. That's a good possibility.
I mean, who do you have that's a babyface? Adam Cole, but that seems too soon.
It's hard to tell where he's going to be going yet.
Could you? They could do Moxley again, but he just lost to Hangman. Do you do Hangman and MJF? I think that would be a good match, but you know who's going to win that.
MJF, I hope.
But no, because here's the thing, MJF's not losing the title. We know that. Like, if you've been paying attention, like, they've made it abundantly clear MJF is not losing that belt.
Not for a while. It ain't time yet.
And it's not going to be time at the end of May either. So now you could say that they pulled the trigger on having a Hangman drop the belt too soon last year. Remember? Last year when he dropped it to Punk? That was too soon.
It didn't bother me though, because it never bothers me to see Adam Page lose.
I have cooled off on him significantly.
So am I.
When he won the title, I was behind him completely. But I don't know. Is it Kenny and MJF? I mean, you could do that because Kenny did not get pinned. Or who got pinned? Was it Kenny that got pinned?
No, it was one of the Jacksons.
So Kenny didn't get pinned. I mean, you could do Kenny and MJF. I think that would be a great match. And Kenny's a babyface right now. Ricky Starks, I think, is an option.
Yes. Speaking of Ricky Starks, he does seem to be getting better and better.
I mean, hell, you could even do Orange Cassidy. I mean, I know it's goofy, but you could do it.
The core AEW fan base would love it.
But again,
some of us wouldn't.
But again, MJF's winning anyway, so it almost, I don't want to say it doesn't matter because it does. But like, you could kind of throw anybody.
MJF could have a lot of fun healing on Orange Cassidy,
And they could do Chris Jericho. Again, but he just lost to Starks. So, do you really, if you're gonna do Jungle Boy's an option, I think, but I think that's too soon. I think that's another guy that could beat him, so I don't know if you want to do that. But what I want to know is what's going to happen with CM Punk. I think before we really start talking about anything beyond really next month, we got to know what's going to happen with CM Punk.
Well, there's contradictory. There's confirmation that he's coming back. No, it's just a rumor. We don't know for sure. We don't know for sure what's going to happen, but
my prediction, and I don't know this, is that he's coming back.
I think so, and I think he'll get a big reception, and I think that
do you know why I say that?
Great promos and some great matches, and sooner or later something's going to go wrong. He's going to end up being a horse's ass, just like he does everywhere he's ever gone. Every place he's ever worked, no matter how well he does, and he's a great performer. But I swear that he is addicted to being chronically unhappy. He is addicted to being unhappy, whatever position he's in. He just has to bitch. He just has to make waves.
He was a top guy in AEW.
I mean, he's always been a top guy everywhere he's gone. But sooner or later, he comes across like a self-righteous little prick. That's my opinion.
But if he's coming back, and the reason I think he's coming back is at the end of the show, MJF looked in the camera and said, "I'm the best in the fucking world."
Yes.
And
that sounds like a direct challenge.
And guess what? You don't do that unless you know something we don't.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing, I was going to say, I'm really looking forward to seeing the next promo that we get from MJF, probably coming up this Wednesday. If he's
Could it be Darby at Double or Nothing? That's an option.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking, we could get a big surprise with CM Punk at any time. And, he's still on the payroll, so they might as well be using him for something. I mean, he's basically being paid to do nothing.
But hear me out. Hear me out on this Darby thing, because I want to go back to Full Gear 2021. They had the opening match of Full Gear 2021.
Which was Darby and
MJF.
And MJF, yeah.
And it was fantastic. Now imagine what they could do with a main event spot for the world title. You could get Sting involved. It Sting's... Hell, you know what? You could do Sting and MJF at Double or Nothing. Why not? There is nothing stopping you from doing that. If Sting wants to do a singles match, imagine Sting and MJF. Yes, of course, MJF is going to win. But let Sting get on a little bit of a roll, win a number one contenders tournament, whatever, go to Double or Nothing, and MJF is not going to win clean no matter what. Give Sting a visual pin, and let that be his last match. Are you against that?
No.
I mean, is that a horrible idea?
No.
I don't think it is. It's Sting's last year. Do something.
Yeah.
Hell, you know what? Put the belt on him.
Yeah. For a little while. It's just going to be a little while anyway if he's retiring.
Shit. He could lose it to MJF the next Wednesday on Dynamite for all I care. Why not?
Yeah. It'd be nice to give him a little last hurrah.
The moment is what would matter there. It would not be the reign. It would be the moment. And you could very easily do Sting and MJF at Double or Nothing. Sting wins the title. And you can do some hokey dokey bullshit where, maybe both their shoulders were down.
Well, it would be a nice nod to the old WCW fan base, which I think is now more in tune with AEW because, I mean, let's face it, during his brief time in the WWE, Sting was treated pretty shitty.
Well, AEW is booked a lot more like 80s WCW than anything else. So, because we talk about the lack of storytelling, but there wasn't a lot of storytelling on 80s WCW either.
Not really, not in the WWE style, but if you look at, for example, look at that main event tonight on tonight's show, the storytelling comes across in the match, not just in the great wrestling moves and the athleticism, but the verbal interaction, the facial expressions. It reminds me of some of the classic matches, even going way back to like DeMont back in the 50s. You see guys like Lou Thesz wrestle, and they wrestled these 45-minute matches, and just the way they turned their head, their eyes expressions, the way they would use different gestures, it told a story without having to have a lot of drama, scripted drama and backstage vignettes and everything.
Which AEW has done very well. That's something AEW has done very well.
Very, very dramatic storytelling within the context of the matches themselves.
And I want to talk about the women's division for a minute because we both love women's wrestling. I think that's fair to say. AEW does it better than WWE, but that's not saying much. Jamie Hayter
for improvement.
Jamie Hayter should not lose that title. Period. Like, I don't think that's a crazy thing.
Not for a while.
No, but I'm talking about a Double or Nothing. We're talking strictly Double or Nothing here.
Right.
Jamie Hayter losing that title at Double or Nothing would be stupid.
What date are we looking at for Double or Nothing? You know,
I will double check, but I believe it's May
June?
31st. I believe it's May 31st.
May. Okay.
May 28th, excuse me.
Okay.
And that's in Vegas again. But
Good.
that's going to be in Vegas.
We'll probably get another casino match of some kind.
God help me. God, no. No. God, please, no. But so I don't think it matters who Hater faces next. I think it's probably going to be Ruby one-on-one, and that's going to be a great match. Hater's going to win. But I think the obvious thing here is Britt's going to turn heel, and it's going to be Britt and Jamie at All Out. I think that's fairly obvious.
Well, that'd be interesting to get a little rivalry going there.
And I think Jack's probably going for the TNT title.
What have you heard about the prospects for an all-women's program?
Well, Tony said that he wants to do it. He's trademarked All Elite Women. So
if we can get the network to back it, though, that's the thing. You know, the network's got to have a
dude. They're trying to get a streaming service, and they've already got Honor Club. I mean, if they repurpose Honor Club, like, why not? I mean,
none of the attempts that we've seen to have an all-women's wrestling program
in the
US.
The
past have been very in serious the US. And have not been very successful.
But that's just in the US. In Japan, it's worked.
Well, I know. Yeah, that's what I meant. Just in the American market. I mean, because we get stuff like WOW and Glow and things like that, which are not for the serious wrestling fan.
But if booked correctly, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be booked great, just booked okay, booked to the level that AEW is, even would be fine.
Well, I think with AEW, they would give us good athletes and good athletic matches. It's not going to be just the TNA show, which is something you'd be more likely to get with WWE, because they think that all that matters in women's wrestling is to have a bunch of hot-looking women.
Do you think that Ricky Starks and MJF is probably the most likely thing for Double or Nothing? Because I do.
Possibly, yeah.
I don't think having Ricky lose is a good idea, but I don't know, man.
Go ahead.
Who do you want to see beat Jamie Hayter for that belt eventually? Obviously not soon.
Ruby? Eventually?
I don't think so. I think they've got a plan.
Well, maybe Britt Baker to win it back.
Do you know what it felt like for a long time? Granted, I'm sure this has changed because she's hurt. It felt like they were going to go for Anna Jay. That's what it felt like. And that would have worked. Now, she's got a minor rib injury. She'll be back sooner rather than later. So
I suppose they could go with Soraya too, but I don't think she's that over with the fans.
I mean, if Soraya's going to win anything, it's going to be the TBS title. And thank God we didn't get that rumored Jade Cargill match.
Haven't seen her for a few weeks. She must be taking some time off of television.
Can we make it permanent?
No, she's probably training to get better in the ring.
I doubt that. Severely.
You doubt that she can get any better?
I'm not sure she can get any worse. So, you know.
Well, all sizzle and no steak, right?
Exactly. I don't know where you go from here, because they've got themselves into a corner with this Hater situation. Because the crowd's never going to be happy with her losing the title. She's going to have to.
No matter who it is.
I mean, that crowd is so behind her.
She would have to do something really drastic to turn heel and get the crowd to turn on her at this point.
Even turning on Britt at this point, it doesn't do anything. She would have to like join that Saraya Outsiders faction. And even then, I'm not sure.
Right.
But like, here's the thing. There is no pressure to take the belt off of her. I'm not sick of her.
In the meantime, we can just have some good matches.
Here's the thing. Saraya eventually an option. Toni Storm an option. Ruby an option. Anna Jay maybe the best option. I personally do think Anna Jay would be the best choice eventually. She's a heel. It would give the Jericho Appreciation Society some gold.
Right.
Which I think they desperately need. I think they need a title, even if it's the women's title. Give her the
women's... need something, because now they just seem like a random collection of goofballs right now.
Give her the women's title and have Tay Conti be the one to beat Jade Cargill. And then you've got the TBS and the women's champion. And you don't need anything more than that. People are going to take you seriously on that alone. And Tay is believable to beat her because black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh yeah, that looks nasty, man. That looks wicked.
So you can't keep that belt on Jade forever.
No.
So it certainly seems like they're going to.
Well, they're going to have to do something different, because I wish she wrestled as good as she looks. I mean, she looks fantastic, but her matches are all pretty much the same. There are certain opponents that give her better matches. She had a better match with... one of her best matches was with Blue Sky Blue.
Sky Blue is fantastic.
That's just because of the quality of who she was working with made her look good.
Now, here's what's crazy. Sky Blue's like younger than me.
She's pretty amazing for such a youngster then.
And it is not unrealistic to say that they could put the belt on her next year. If they push her right. They might even just put the ROH title on her and just tell her to run with it. But Paige Van Zandt is going to come back at some point. Dan Lambert is going to come back at some point. I think Paige Van Zandt versus Jamie Hayter with Lambert and Baker going back and forth with each other.
Or
that would be money. So I don't know where they're going from here. We got a clear direction for the women's thing, right? I think Jamie and Britt are going to get a third woman. Mercedes Moné kind of feels like that's who it's going to be, right? It seems like they're going to bring in Mercedes. So, Mercedes, Jamie, and Britt against Saraya, Ruby, and Toni is probably where we're headed. And Forbidden Door is probably Hayter versus...
Well, now that you mentioned that, let's just hope they don't come up with a women's trios title.
I don't think they have enough women.
That's all we need is another title.
I don't think they have enough women.
No.
But they do have enough women for a women's tag title.
Yeah, they do. I'm surprised that we haven't seen that so far.
And they do have enough women's tag teams for that as well. Certainly be better than WWE's women's tag division. Then again, that's kind of like saying it's better than a drizzling pile of the shits.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about WWE here. I know this has been a very AEW-centric show.
Here we got WrestleMania coming up 3 weeks from this Saturday.
we got one major piece of news this week. And we could have probably done a whole fucking show on this. Brock Lesnar has started to tell people he's finishing up.
Right.
Uh-oh. That's not good.
He can afford to retire. Yeah, blame the guy.
Okay. Here's why it's bad.
It's bad for wrestling fans.
It's bad for the wrestling business. That point aside, Brock Lesnar leaving WWE. And he would not go to AEW, by the way. Let's not start that crap.
Nope. Why? That would be idiotic. No reason.
Only reason you could maybe come up with is if he wants to work with Wardlow.
Nah, it doesn't make any sense.
Or like
this match with Omos could be his last match. Very well,
and he's probably if this is actually it for him, he's probably going to lose. And God forbid,
God forbid he put over Omos. But also online, the story is that he had a chance to work with Bray Wyatt and refused. He refused. He said he won't work with the guy. Didn't have any interest in working with Bray Wyatt.
They have an issue.
Reportedly.
They have an issue of some kind. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a Brock issue, a Bray issue, or just a mutual agreement to stay out of each other's way, whatever. Does it matter? Not really. But, I mean,
well, just because he's telling everybody he's done doesn't necessarily mean he's done, because
he could be done for now.
He's quit before. He'd come back for. I mean, the WWE has always been willing to pay him ridiculous amounts of money to work a very, very light schedule.
I mean, he has not been working a light schedule for the last year, though.
Right. It's interesting. Maybe since he's been working more of a regular schedule, maybe he really is burned out.
And you know what it could be? He could have known a year ago that this was it for him and decided to work a heavier schedule just to get in everything he wanted to do.
Yes.
That really could have been it. Maybe he wanted a babyface run because he never really had that. And now he's got his babyface run, and
it worked out better than I ever thought it could. Like you said before, a babyface with an anger problem, anger management issues.
Cowboy Brock is great.
Yeah.
That's some cowboy shit you can get behind.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah.
Here's my thing. I don't know this, but I feel like the idea probably is Brock is going to finish up this run at WrestleMania. He's going to beat Omos. He'll be gone from WrestleMania till a month before SummerSlam. Cody Rhodes will be in the ring cutting a promo about whatever Cody wants to talk about, honestly. Dusty, how much he loves his dog.
Anything. Anything except his wife.
Because he refuses to mention her.
Well, she's not exactly beloved by the fans.
No, but I think he knows that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like Cody versus Brock at SummerSlam is very likely at this point. If my prediction is
around.
I think Brock, when he says he's finishing up, I think he means his babyface run.
That could be.
And I think he's going to come back as a heel. And they could have him do to Cody what he did to John Cena at SummerSlam 2014.
Remind us all what that was.
At SummerSlam 2014, Brock Lesnar absolutely murdered John Cena.
Destroyed him, didn't he, as I remember?
I mean, that's where Suplex City bitch came from.
That looked so much like an absolute shoot.
Oh my God.
It really kind of shocked people.
Brock looked pissed off. He looked like he went in there and he looked like a caged animal that just got released. I mean, it got so bad that Paul Heyman was telling him to stop. Like,
yeah,
he killed him. And okay, here's my thing. If that's not what they're doing, if Brock is actually done, first ballot Hall of Famer on this run alone.
Sure.
And, you know, he quit in 2020 too. He left in 2020. His contract was up. He was gone. And he came back.
We'd never see him again.
And he came back a year and a half later. So,
pro wrestlers have a habit of retiring many times before they finally actually quit for good.
It's like boxing. Yeah. They retire.
Well, look at Terry Funk. I mean, he
67 retirement matches.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
I don't think
this is their blood.
I don't think, in my personal opinion, I do not think Brock is done after WrestleMania. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I don't know that I buy it. This would be a weird place to stop. I mean, really. But
yeah, wrestling almost.
You know, and I know everybody's going to be mad about this, but I would almost prefer he wrestle Goldberg again. If it's between Omos and Goldberg, I think it's a hard choice. But I'd almost take Goldberg. At least they can have a car crash.
Oh, remember the first time they met?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, the crowd was booing both of them out of the building.
Oh, you're talking about that first time. I'm talking about when Goldberg first came back.
No, I'm talking about going way back to, like, what was it?
The last time WrestleMania was in LA?
Right. They were both they were both leaving the company. And I think that was WrestleMania.
It was.
And the crowd just shit all over both of them.
But
that was an amazing moment where the crowd definitely hijacked the show.
And it was equally amazing when Goldberg came back and they had a match in 2016.
Yeah, he beat Lesnar very quick that time.
90 seconds.
Yeah, I was going to say about a minute and a half, if I remember right.
And both Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar have said publicly that is one of their favorite moments together because it was believable. It was shot well.
Yeah, and it just shocked the hell out of it. It was unexpected. That was probably Goldberg's best match, I thought.
Yeah, because it was 90 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, I hope they don't bring Goldberg back to wrestle. I hope that he enjoys his retirement doing whatever he's doing.
Well, he wants to wrestle again.
But I don't want to see him wrestle.
He wants to wrestle again.
Well, God bless him, but I don't want to see him. Oh.
Tell him the cameras are on, but they're not. Ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. What grade do you give AEW Revolution?
I'd give it an A-. The only reason I'd give it an A-. Maybe, I'll tell you what, that tag team match was a clusterfuck. It was a mess. but maybe I'd have to go with an A just because, especially the main event was just so sweet. It was so well done, and I enjoyed it. You know, that hour, and then it ended up being like an hour, 10 minutes. It just seemed to go by so quick. The whole show, it was almost a 4 hour show, but you notice how at the end of, that's how long the Royal Rumble was. And at the end of it, you felt drained, you felt exhausted. This show was almost 4 hours, and it just seemed to fly by because it was so well done and so well paced. And
there was no bullshit.
At the end of it, it was just like you felt energized, you felt charged, you felt good. It was a good show.
You felt ready to do this show.
Yes, exactly.
You were excited to talk about it. You were like,
right,
man, I want to do this fucking show. Let's go.
Right. I tell you what, AEW does pay-per-view better than WWE at this point.
I think they do pay-per-view better than anybody. I mean, New Japan is pretty close, but the problem with New Japan, at least in the States, is they start at like 2:00 in the morning.
Well, yeah.
Now, if you watch it the next day,
I think it takes a certain kind of it takes a certain portion of the American pro wrestling audience to really get the Japanese wrestling. It doesn't always resonate the same. Part of it's the crowd reaction is so different. It feels so different. I know that some American wrestling fans get bored very quick with Japanese wrestling because they just can't quite get into the pace of it, the groove of it,
Now, here's how I've kind of learned to enjoy New Japan. And it took years for me to get there. I enjoy it anyway, because I just think it's a really good show. But when there's like a pay-per-view for them and they start at like 2 a.m, I'll watch it like the next day on NJPW World. Because I'm an insomniac and I'm up that late anyway. But those are long shows. They go for 4 hours. From 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Like that's... And you're tired at the end of it. Now, I'm sure if you go to bed at like 8 p.m. the night before and wake up at 2, you're probably fine. Because you can go back to bed after, whatever. But I do want to point out something. Notice how chipper we are. It's 12:15 in the morning right now on Monday. Yeah. We were like dead at the end of the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
We looked dead. And for this show, and maybe it's because me and you hadn't done a show together yet.
Exactly. I think we're getting to know each other better.
Well, that helps. I mean,
definitely.
Overall, though, I would give AEW Revolution an A. I think this was a solid show. I don't really have any problems with it. Even the Texas Death Match I liked more than I thought I would. Still don't like death matches as a whole. And it's not even that they're too violent. That's not even my problem with it. I know that's some people's problem with them, but that's not my problem. Death matches just aren't my... They're just not for me. I mean, and that's okay. I mean, if you like them, okay, I'm fine with that. That doesn't.
At some point, I just get tired of seeing people hurt themselves on purpose for entertainment,
and that's fine.
It doesn't take too long to get to the point to where it's just pointless.
And I do want to say something here, because here's the thing, and I know there's going to be people that are going to yell at me on Twitter for saying that the death match wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen. It is okay to have a different opinion in wrestling. And that is so much the problem now with wrestling fans. Me and you disagree all the time.
Doesn't bother me.
I don't care.
Like, can I say about deathmatch wrestling is that one thing that I do find interesting is the individual people. When I see a lengthy interview with someone like Nick Gage or Matt Tremont, it's interesting to get to know that a little bit more about them as a person, about the psychology, about why it is that they do what they do, why they're willing to go to such extremes. I find that really, really fascinating.
And like, you'd think these would be like stupid, idiot guys.
No,
Nick Gage is incredibly intelligent.
He's incredibly intelligent, and he says a lot of things that you would be surprised.
And like, these guys understand the wrestling business, and they understand that what they do isn't for everyone.
I actually saw, my favorite Matt Tremont match was one where there was no weapons. It wasn't a death match. The guy can work a straight wrestling match.
I mean, so can Nick Gage.
Yeah, and just I've seen a couple of his matches where clean pinfall, no weapons. They didn't even hardly leave the ring. It's just because they do the extreme deathmatch wrestling doesn't mean they don't know how to do a traditional wrestling match.
Well, here's the thing about deathmatch wrestling. It is actually harder than normal pro wrestling.
Well, it's got to be hard on the body and on the mind and on the emotions,
That's why Moxley's so good, because he was doing deathmatch wrestling forever. You've got to be really damn good if you're going to do death matches. You can't be bad and do death matches. It's really not possible, which is why.
What's interesting is I remember one of the documentaries I saw about the death match, one wrestler described before he's going out to wrestle his opponent in an extremely bloody match full of weapons. He says, "Why do you do this for a living?" And the guy says, "Fucked up childhood. How about you?" And he says something like that. And then they go out there and proceed to slice each other to ribbons for entertainment. So the psychology behind it, what motivates these people, is what's fascinating to me.
Well,
it wouldn't surprise you to know that these guys have issues.
No, that's no surprise, but I'll be interested to see where this goes on Wednesday with Dynamite.
Yes.
I did think the build for this show was very lackluster.
Yeah, it was.
But Revolution historically has not had a great build. Except for last year.
It was a good show.
Man, I'll tell you, AEW might not know how to build shit, but they know how to put on a show. It was
a barn burner.
That Tony Khan would say. That Tony Khan can sure produce a good wrestling show.
Right. Interesting too. You notice that Jim Ross was only there for an hour, and he doesn't do that much anymore. I know he has health issues, and but it's good to get to see him, even if it's just on a part-time basis. I'm glad JR is still in the game.
Tony Schiavone is clearly having the most fun he's ever had in his life.
Yes. And from what I hear, that he is involved in the booking of Ring of Honor also.
In some capacity. I don't know exactly how, and that might just be a rumor, but that's kind of what I've heard, is because he took a very much so bigger role in the company last year after the Brawl Out situation, because that's when Tony realized he had to start delegating to some level. And he did.
Yeah.
And Pat Buck took a bigger role, and Sanjay Dutt is doing a lot. Sanjay Dutt's on screen, but he's also very, very heavily involved backstage, and he was
booking. I understand that. I've also heard that he has a great mind for the business, and seems to really.
But he was booking Impact forever, so shit. He was helping book Impact when he was wrestling there, so
right. Well, another thing about I want to mention, because I was going to mention it before we were talking about Ring of Honor. but the Kingdom, Matt Taven and what's his name?
Mike Bennett.
Mike Bennett. Thank you. My mind was just drawing a blank.
I drew a blank too. I was like, what the?
Again. Mike Bennett and Maria Kanellis were there for a little while in WWE, and they were horribly misused.
Well, they're Ring of Honor till they die. I mean,
yes. And I tell you what, that going to WWE was a complete waste of time for them. I'm glad to see them in Ring of Honor, and I always thought that they were a good team.
I think I don't know what they're going to do with the Ring of Honor tag titles. I have no idea.
Yeah, they're going to have to do something.
My presumption,
a tournament.
My presumption is the Kingdom will probably be tag champs again.
That would make sense.
Only because
seems like, it looks like Takeshita is going to be probably more Ring of Honor.
I mean, if it gets him on TV.
Yes.
I really liked Ring of Honor. I liked the pace of Ring of Honor this past week. It was boom, 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 boom,
right.
boom, boom,
like I said, I was only able to see the first hour, but it reminded me of the Ring of Honor of old. But just with a bigger audience. Then they're toward the end when they were going bankrupt. Had pretty small crowds. It was almost more like studio wrestling.
So I do want to start covering Ring of Honor on this show, and I talked to Russ about that. What was that? I think we talked about that Thursday.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we talked about that Thursday, and I think we're going to start reviewing Ring of Honor. Maybe not every week, but most every week.
Well, I definitely hooked up to get it now because I want to see it.
And here's the thing. I'm not against adding Ring of Honor to the normal rotation. If that's what we want to do. I mean, we've got the time slot, so we might as well do it. I mean,
yeah.
And if it adds 30 minutes to our show every week, oh well, we're already going for 90.
Right.
You're already here for an hour and a half every week. We might as well round up and make it 2.
Right.
And
I'm I don't have any problem with adding or deleting anything from the rotation according to what's good or what isn't good, what's worth covering and what isn't worth covering.
Well, AEW
you never know from week to week what kind of news you're going to get too.
And Dynamite remains worth covering. I don't think that's ever going to change.
Right.
Raw and SmackDown are kind of always there.
Right. And they're more important going into WrestleMania. We still got the ongoing drama with the division within the bloodline. We still don't ultimately know exactly what's going to happen there. They're playing that storyline out. We've got the Sami Zayn issue.
I still think that Roman is losing at WrestleMania.
Well, he has been champion for 2.5 years. That is unusual in the modern era. We haven't seen the title reign like that long since back in the days of Hulk Hogan.
I heard a very good argument, and I know we're running along here, but I don't care. I heard a very good argument for him winning. He's at 900 and some odd days already.
Yeah.
You might as well just let him break 1,000.
Yeah. Yeah, they could do that and then stretch it out to SummerSlam.
You might as well just say fuck it at this point. Yeah, people are going to complain. Oh well. They're going to complain either way because people are going to complain if Cody wins too.
Sure.
Russ being one of them, probably.
Well, maybe. I don't know. Cody's all right. He's growing on me.
And we're probably going to do something kind of special for WrestleMania. I don't know exactly what yet. Me and
got 2 nights to cover. It could be a long show.
I don't know. We might do 2 separate shows that weekend. I'm not against that. We're going to do something kind of unique. I wouldn't mind getting a third person on here, honestly.
That'd be great.
You know what? For my old Two Marks and a Spark fans, I'm probably going to try and ask Bryce. I haven't talked to him about this yet, but I'm probably going to try and ask Bryce if he wants to come back and just do one show with us, because those 2 nights to cover just the two of us are going to be a freaking nightmare. I mean, WrestleMania weekend for us is going to be rough anyway, because we're going to have Super Card of Honor and 2 nights of WrestleMania.
It's going to be packed.
I mean, we're going to have to do 2 shows. Because I don't know about you, but I want to cover Super Card of Honor. I do.
Yes.
So.
And there's other stuff going on that weekend too.
We got Ibushi's Ibushi's making his return that weekend. Okay. So we're gonna have either 2 shows that weekend or one very, 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 very long.
Yeah, I'd rather break it up into 2 shows.
Okay, 3. At that point. We'll keep you posted on our WrestleMania weekend plans, but like I said, I'm currently in the process of trying to book some special stuff for that weekend. So, and I think having a guest that weekend is kind of appropriate. So I don't want to make any promises. I'm throwing the idea out there that we very well might have a guest that weekend. I don't know who yet. Bryce is kind of the most logical, but I hope everyone is as excited for WrestleMania as I am. That is going to be great. This show was great. I don't know that WrestleMania can top this. I do not think it can.
I would be surprised, but I hope I'm wrong. I hope they hit it right out of the park. I hope they do great. But last year's WrestleMania was a step up from what we've had the previous years.
It wasn't a step up. That was elevator.
Yeah.
That was an elevator at high speed going straight up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Uncle Russ's Comic Talk right here on Lock 22.
Yes. Every week, Uncle Russ's Comic Talk. I have comic books for sale. I have comic books to show you and educate you about from my own collection, from the history of comics. Want you to join us every week on Lock 22 on YouTube, Uncle Russ's Comic Talk. And if you're a comic book mark, join us. One of these weeks I will have to do, I will let you know when I can get it organized, but I am going to do a little bit of extra programming on wrestling comic books.
That would be cool.
Of which there have been quite a few.
Has it really?
Most recently, a really, really good 6-part series called Do a Powerbomb by Daniel Warren Johnson, involving professional wrestling against tag teams from interdimensional realities, where pro wrestling is 100% real, and they're very, very skeptical of these Earth wrestlers where it's fake.
And then, of course, Puck University, which just started last week.
For the hockey fans.
You know, and again, I'm just spitballing here. We've got a hockey show. We've got a wrestling show. We've got an NFL show. If I could find another MLS fan, I'd do a MLS show. I don't know another one, but shit, if there's demand, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
But with that,
yes,
we've got our promotion out of the way. We've talked about every wrestling promotion under the sun.
Just about.
We have gone our usual hour and a half.
Right, but it's been fun. I tell you, AEW Revolution 2023 was very good. Give it a thumbs up.
Great show. And it
awesome main event.
And it needed to be. But But it feels like AEW is turning the corner again. It feels like we're maybe getting back on track. So here's hoping we stay here. Because if we don't, I'm
Be
going to be
interested to see what happens this week.
because the wrestling business is better when there are two big companies doing really well. And away we go. But thank you so much for joining us as always. Leave us a like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us what you thought of AEW Revolution. As always, I'm Ben Shrewsbury. That's Uncle Russ. For everybody here at Lock 22, we thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you next week, folks. Back to our normal schedule next week. Next Sunday, I believe. What is that next Sunday? That's the 13th?
Yes.
All right.
Back to our
Next
normal
Sunday.
Sunday.
Hey, next Sunday, we're back to normal. Have a good week, everybody.
Right.